The arrival of Xiao has definitely changed expectations of many, and this video will address the biggest reasons why this Demon Avenger will remain relevant for a long time. Probably the biggest concern you will have when you reach the endgame in Genshin Impact is the hard decisions you need to make in order to optimize your teams based on their elemental affinities. And it's been quite a few months since the game has launched worldwide, and there's still a lot of discussions going on in order to comprehend where exactly some elements stand in the game. For example, the fact that Pyro has so much versatility compared to another element like Electro, which has been receiving criticism from time to time. But putting aside these discussions, the real person of interest here is Xiao, who evidently belongs to an element that doesn't actually have any other elemental reactions outside of Swirl, and the cemented understanding that this element is there to serve the purpose of either grouping enemies into one place or utilizing the Viridescent artifact set is probably the only things that matter, so it's no surprise that when Xiao came into the picture, he definitely managed to shake things up with his declaration that he's now going to be the main damage dealer for the Anemo element. And because of the way endgame has been designed, there's a strong emphasis put on shield breaking that sadly eclipses even things like the Blessing of the Abyssal Moon, which has been low-key giving specific bonuses targeted at the newest characters that come out during wish events. And even if you utilize this buff, there's not much damage you will do if you first won't break the shield, and obviously, since Xiao is from the Anemo element, there is certain difficulty when it comes to breaking shields. And technically, you are able to strip down the elemental defense an enemy puts on, but you need to do it so that when Xiao uses an Anemo attack, the swirl successfully transfers the element onto the shield that's weak to it, so in some cases, if you play carefully enough and place enemies into certain positions, it can break their shields by the transfer of the swirl reaction. However, the true purpose Xiao serves as an Anemo damage dealer is the fact that there are not that many enemies which have a strong resistance against Anemo, which means the damage won't fluctuate that much as you would see with other characters. So in essence, Xiao's elemental alignment is pretty universal, and while it does mean you will struggle with him breaking shields, at least you still have a chance of doing it instead of someone who's from the Geo element, which basically have no way to mitigate this risk. Making a distinction between characters to separate them for their actual purposes is not always as clear as you want it to be, and because Xiao is from an element that doesn't have that many different options, it makes you question how much relevance he holds in that specific affinity. And this is an especially interesting topic to explore since Venti has been known in the community as the most powerful character in the game, which ironically doesn't even depend on dealing damage, but instead applying the extremely useful crowd control onto your enemies. So comparison between Venti and Xiao isn't the easiest one to make because both of them serve entirely different roles even if they share the same element. And if we eliminate the question whether you need to level up and raise two Anemo characters, it's better to look from the perspective if you want to level up and raise a serious damage dealer and an insanely powerful crowd controller. And let's not forget Xiao has a lot of mobility thanks to his elemental skill and burst, so he can reposition himself pretty fast, which can be important in those Spiral Abyss challenges where you need to protect the objective. On the other hand, Venti can instead group enemies and let you execute them with your other characters, so it really depends on what you're looking for and what your current team composition is. Still, it's important to address there is a risk-reward with Xiao because of the health that gets drained during his burst, and he is overall a bit fragile, so the inclusion of a healer or a shield character is pretty much the best choice if you want to avoid these problems or have trouble dodging enemy attacks. But this is why there's no individuality when it comes to this game, and you need to depend on your other teammates to provide different means of support, so even if you have to include a teammate who needs to support Xiao's well-being, but aside from this, they're just too different, and the only common thing they have is their element, which leaves us to other characters, and while most of them can be used as your main damage dealer, Xiao is specifically designed to serve this purpose without any deviations, since someone like Ganyu could be used in both roles, while Xiao basically wants to be a selfish character that you need to build a whole team around. And thanks to his design, you can enable his fascinating playstyle that while it might not appeal to everyone, at least you can appreciate miHoYo keeps coming out with different gimmicks in the game that allow you to feel the uniqueness of most characters. Also, if you want to see an ongoing analysis of Xiao, make sure to follow us on Twitter, link in the description. So in short, while his playstyle can be disorienting to some players and even forces you into a reckless engagement, the high risk-reward factor will satisfy a large group of players who enjoy such a playstyle, and thanks to his insane mobility and competitive damage, he thankfully doesn't need to be compared to any other Anemo character as of now because of his unique design. It's no secret that for the most part, a lot of people are interested in characters' damaging capabilities, and while the design and personality matters a lot, some players simply look forward to actual evaluation in terms of gameplay viability. So the big question a lot of us have is whether or not Xiao can deliver good damage if you take away his 5-star weapon and constellations, and whether he holds his position as a strong damage dealer compared to other characters like Ganyu or Diluc. And from this example here, the only thing he has to his name right now are semi-good artifacts that don't even have their set bonuses optimized, and a crescent pike weapon, which basically isn't that great for him, and you'd best be off with something like prototype Star Glitter, which gives him the much needed energy recharge. And yet, even with 0 constellations and not the most decent equipment, his damage output is still very much exciting, so there's not that much punishment involved when you start out with him or don't have the best gear. But to summarize, the biggest concern about Xiao in terms of long-term value is actually the element he belongs to, but because he can still technically break shields by swirling them, he can avoid the pitfall of not being a shield breaker compared to someone who's from a geo element. And the other important thing that matters about his Anemo element is the fact that the current enemies in the game have little to no resistance against Anemo attacks, which places him in a sweet spot of a neutral damage dealer, which hopefully won't change unless MiHoYo introduces major changes to how the elemental system works. Then there's the importance of how he gets compared to other characters from his element, and the biggest one that had to be addressed was him against Venti, and the two couldn't be more different, each serving separate roles, which highly depend on what type of situation you're in. Finally, the fact that he can still perform really well, even when using suboptimal equipment, just shows how strong his design is when it comes to being the main damage dealer, and so with all these 3 major concerns addressed, this should be enough to believe that Xiao is going to remain relevant for a very long time in Genshin Impact, thanks to his unique nature and element. Let us know in the comments which character you have been using for the longest time in the game. Also, don't forget to subscribe to us by enabling the bell notification on and gently pressing the like button. For more Genshin Impact guides and important updates, make sure to follow us on Twitter, link in the description. Thank you for watching us.